Thank you for joining today's IEEE Xplore webinar. My name is Jaelyn Kelly, and I am an IEEE Client Services Manager. I also have on the call today my colleague, Craig Griffith, who will be helping with today's session. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. We have a lot of people on the line today, so all lines have been muted. If you would like to ask a question, please type it into the chat box and send it to the option that says Host, Presenters, and Panelists. Craig, who is a panelist, will be monitoring the chat box throughout today's session, and in order for him to see your questions, you need to make sure it goes to the panelists and not just the host. Today's session will be recorded, and everyone who registered will be sent a link to the recording. So if you have any technical difficulties today, please don't worry. We will be sending out the recording and you won't miss anything. There are going to be some email addresses and URLs that I share throughout the presentation today. So Craig is going to go ahead and post those now in the chat box so you can just copy them and not have to worry about writing them down during the presentation. And again, please type any questions into the chat box and send it to host, presenters, and panelists. We will have time at the end of today's session for a Q&A session. We'll start with the questions that were pre-submitted during registration, and then we'll cover as many questions that you submitted in the chat box as we can. If we don't get to your question, we'll follow up with you after the session. And if you don't know if you have an institutional subscription or how to access that institutional subscription, please email training@IEEE.org with your name, email address, and institution name, and we will answer that separately. We will not be handling those kind of questions during today's session, but if you email training@IEEE.org, we will be more than happy to help you figure out if you have an institutional subscription and how to access it. So the IEEE is the world's largest technical membership association with more than 420,000 members around the world. But in addition to being a membership association, IEEE is also a publisher. And IEEE currently publishes over 200 IEEE journals, magazines, and transactions. We are the world's largest technical conference organizer with over 1,800 annual conferences. And we develop standards that underpin many of today's top technologies. Probably our most famous is the 802.11 Wi-Fi standard. And all of this content that we publish is discoverable via the IEEE Xplore Digital Library, which has more than 5 million full-text documents dating as far back as 1872. So when you go into Xplore, there are 5 different content types. We have periodicals, which are journals, transactions, and magazines, which are scholarly peer-reviewed publications that publish technical papers in IEEE fields of interest and include both theoretical and experimental papers. So you're going to find a large repository of scholarly papers to support your research projects. We have conference papers from those over 1,800 annual conferences. And conferences are typically where cutting-edge technologies are first premiered, sometimes months in advance before they appear in a journal. Standards, which set specifications and guidelines for how technology will work. And IEEE develops standards across a wide range of technologies, including information technology, power and energy, and telecommunications. Hundreds of hours of e-learning courses on new and emerging technologies such as blockchain, 5G, and Internet of Things. And there are also 6 Ebooks collections in IEEE Xplore from IEEE Wiley, MIT Press, Morgan and Claypool, Now Foundations and Trends, and SAE. And books can really help to bridge the gap between that free Wikipedia-type content you find on the Internet and the technical IEEE journal articles and conference papers. Now, your access to this content depends upon your institution's IEEE Xplore subscription. If you don't know what your institution's subscription is, please email training@ieee.org, and we'll be more than happy to help you figure that out. IEEE is also made up of 39 technical societies, and these technical societies cover a wide range of technical interests. So while most people think of the IEEE, they think of electrical engineering and computer science, which are, of course, our foundational technologies, IEEE really covers all areas of technology today. And IEEE content is highly valued and highly used. IEEE looks at a couple of different key indicators to see how our content is being used. And one of those is the Journal Citation Report from Clarivate Analytics, which looks at how often journal articles are cited by later research. And the most recent report found that all of the top 20 cited journals in electrical engineering are from IEEE, as well as 18 of the top 20 journals in telecommunications. And you can see on this slide we have the #1 most cited journals in a variety of topics, including artificial intelligence, cybernetics, and industrial engineering. Another thing we look at is patent citations. So if you look at patents from the top 30 companies who patent at the U.S. Patent Office, you find that IEEE content is cited 3 times more often than any other science, technology, or medical publisher. And IEEE dominates in patents related to autonomous vehicles and Internet of Things. Now, the technology landscape is constantly growing and evolving, and so IEEE is always introducing new publications to address these growing areas of research and emerging technologies. So this year in 2020, we have announced 3 new journal titles on industrial electronics, information theory, and technology and society. These will begin publishing sometime this year and will be available in the IEEE Xplore Digital Library. And in 2019, we launched 4 new subscription titles that you can see here on the screen. But where you see the most growth is the conferences. So as I mentioned, many technologies are premiered at conferences, sometimes months before they premiere in a journal. And the reason the conferences grow so much is because the technology grows so much, right? So as emerging technologies appear, new conferences appear to address those areas of research. And this is just a sampling of some of the new conferences that were added to IEEE Xplore recently. And you can see they cover a wide range of technical interests, things such as blockchain, energy smart systems, artificial intelligence, electron devices, energy access solutions, and so on. So again, the conferences really cover a wide range of technical interests. All right, so I'm going to move on to the live IEEE Xplore demo. For those who joined late, just a reminder that we have muted all lines. And if you'd like to ask a question, please type it into the chat box and send it to host, presenters, and panelists. My colleague Craig Griffith is monitoring the chat box, and he is a panelist today, so you need to send those questions to the panelists so he can see them. All right. So here on the IEEE Xplore homepage, there are a variety of options for searching and browsing within IEEE Xplore, but we have this prominent search box on the homepage, which we call our global search box. And there's a variety of options that people can search by, or different search strategies, I should say. One is to start very broadly and explore a topic. And so I'm going to start with that idea. So you'll notice that as I begin typing in the global search box, I get what's called type ahead functionality with up to 20 suggested searches. So I can select one of those, or I can just type in my own search terms. So I'm going to do a search on microgrid. And the default in Xplore is to search across all the content, so I'm going to get over 17,000 documents. So now I can use the different features and functionality on the search results page to help me filter and refine my results and drill down to what I'm looking for. It's a really nice way to be able to explore a topic, and you can remove refinements so you can drill in and out on the search results set as well. So as we scroll down, you'll notice I have the ability to search within the results. So if I add an additional search term or a refining concept, it will just search within these 17,000 plus documents for any articles that also contain those words. I can also narrow down by content type. So as I mentioned, we do have 5 different content types. The journals, early access articles, and magazines are decoupled here, so you can narrow down to just those, but those together are periodicals. The early access articles are the preprint or forthcoming articles that have completed the peer review process and are awaiting publication in a print journal. So when you're online on Xplore, you get to see content months in advance of print. As you scroll down, you can narrow down to just your subscribed content, or you have a variety of options that we call facets along the left-hand side, which allow you to narrow down by publication year, so you can be in control of the time frame from within which you're searching. Or you can narrow down by things like author and author affiliation. And these facets will also give you some insights into the search results set as well. So you can select a specific author to narrow down by, but if you're looking for subject matter experts or key researchers within an area, the author facet shows you the top 5, and then if you click View More, the top 25 authors for your search results set based on record count. So in other words, the first person listed here has published over 460 documents on my topic. Same with the affiliation field. You can see the specific organizations that are publishing a lot on this topic. You can narrow down by publication title or publisher. So in addition to IEEE content, we do host a variety of other publishers and societies' content on Xplore. So we do have what we call partner content that you can see here. You can also narrow down to supplemental items. So if an article has media associated with it, code, or data sets, you can narrow down to those. And there's a variety of other options here. You can see conference location, standard status. At the very bottom is our newest facet, the index term facet. So the content on IEEE Xplore is indexed with keywords that best describe the content of that paper. And here we can browse the top 25 keywords for our search results set. So sometimes you do a search on a broad topic and maybe you're not even sure where to begin refining your results. This can actually give you some ideas about narrowing your results. So there might be some topics in here that you hadn't thought of that you might want to narrow down by. So in this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and narrow down to power generation economics. So there's about 1,400, almost 1,500 documents indexed with that term. And then I'm most interested in journals today, so I'm going to go ahead and narrow down to journals as well. Now you'll notice that anything I've searched by or added can be removed. All I have to do is click the X box, so I can broaden my search results back out if I want. I can also change how my search results are sorted. So the default is relevancy ranking, but if I want to see the most recently published content, I can sort newest first, and that will then change the sort by publication date. So you'll see the most recently published content at the top. If you're looking for high impact articles, meaning articles that other people are using frequently in their research, you can sort most cited by papers to see the documents which have been cited most frequently in other journal articles and conference papers at the top of your search results set. Most cited by patents will show the documents that have been cited most frequently in patents filed at the U.S. Patent Office, the European Patent Office, and the Worldwide Intellectual Property Office. And the newest sort option is most popular. So if you want to sort your search results set to see what were the most downloaded documents worldwide, you can do that and see what other people are reading most frequently from your search result set. And then there's also publication title, A to Z and C to A. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as relevancy ranking. As I scroll through here and look at the search results set, if there is an unlocked green lock next to any of the content, that means I'm going to be able to access it. I can, of course, open up the full text PDF for anything that I have access to. This is useful for downloading and printing. And you'll notice if you're looking for author contact information, in many instances you'll find the email addresses in the footer of the first page. But I can also click on the document title to go to the expanded, abstract, and full text HTML record, where there are a lot of really nice value-added features that you don't get in the full text PDF. So as I'm scrolling down, I can read the abstract. I can see the different document sections. If I want, I can jump right down to a particular section. I can do a search within the full text HTML to see my keywords in context or change the font size. If I see an equation, I can do a right mouse click over it to pull up a menu that will then give me the option to see the math in MathML code or tech commands. So for example, if I select MathML code, it's going to open it up, and I can simply highlight and copy and paste that into a program with an equation editor. If you always want the tech, you can just simply click the View Source link and highlight and copy and paste it from here as well. If we go back up to the top, just below the document sections, you'll see there are some additional options. One is the authors. So if you want to see a little bit more about the authors, you can scroll down here. If we have a photo and a bio, we'll include it. You'll notice that author names are hyperlinked, so if you click on one, it's going to open up that author's detail page. And so basically that just gives you a little bit more information about the author. You can see the various names that they published under, their affiliation, their top publication topics, and then a complete list of articles published by that particular author. And if you find a really great article, I always encourage you to check what else that author has published, because many times they publish on the same area of research. So if they've published one article useful to you, they probably published some other research that you might want to take advantage of. We also have added a feature called Follow This Author, so you can set up an alert to follow any author and be notified when they publish new content in Xplore. Just below the authors section are the figures. So the figures are, of course, included throughout the paper in the full text HTML. But if you go down to the bottom, you can actually scroll through all the figures at once. And you can even open up the figures and in some cases zoom in and out on them, or do a right mouse click to copy or save that image. Below the figures is the references list. So this is the works cited or bibliography for this paper. It's also another valuable place to take a look to find additional content that might be relevant to you, as well as the citations list. So here you'll see any IEEE papers that have cited this particular document. We also track citations from other publishers, and then as I mentioned, those patent citations as well. Here is the keywords section. So this is the index terms that best describe the content of the paper. We have an IEEE thesaurus that indexes IEEE content. We also get index terms from InSpec, which is an abstracting and indexing company. If an author chose to provide keywords, we'll include the author keywords here as well. And for our 16 biomedical titles, we also have the mesh terms from the National Library of Medicine. All of these index terms are hyperlinked, so if you click on one, it'll generate a search for other articles indexed with that term. And this is another great place to come to help you find additional related research. If you can just find one good article, I always tell people to come to the keywords and really review those closely for that article, because it might suggest better search terms for you to try, and you might want to rework your search strategy based on some of those keywords or index terms. We also have a metrics section that will tell you how many times an article has been downloaded. It compares citations from other databases, so you can see from Crossref, Scopus, Web of Science, or go out to Google Scholar. We also track what are called alt metrics, and that's online sharing activity. So if an article has been tweeted about, if it was used as a source in a Wikipedia article, anything like that, you'll be able to see that here, and you can link out to that specific online sharing activity as well. And then earlier I mentioned our supplemental items facet, where you can narrow down to documents that have media, code, or data sets. And those supplemental items will also be included in this full text HTML view of the article. So this particular article has code associated with it. And the code is a partnership with CodeOcean, which is a cloud-based algorithm platform which allows users to run, modify, and download code from IEEE articles. So if an author chooses to make their code open source, they upload it for free into CodeOcean. It gets a DOI that's then fed back to us, and that code is integrated in right here into the article. So you can browse the files, you can run the code using the run function, or you can edit the capsule to test changes to the code. So it's almost like a sandbox for code. If there were any data sets associated with them, they would be listed here. And these are data sets that have been posted on IEEE Dataport, which is IEEE's data repository. And then the multimedia or media is anything that an author chose to submit to further illustrate or explain the points in their paper. We zip them up and add them to Xplore right around this section as well. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the top of the article. I wanted to highlight that we do have additional information up here, including things like the funding agency. If you're looking for other similar articles, there is a More Like This feature. If you want to download the full text PDF, you can do that. You can also download the citation for this article into plain text or a format for a bibliographic management system. If you just want to grab the plain text, you can also use the new Cite This feature, which allows you to quickly just copy the article citation in IEEE style. You can email a link of this article to someone. You can request permission for reuse. And you can even set up an alert to be notified if anyone in the future cites this particular article. So you can see that within this full text HTML view, there's a lot of really nice features that you can use to help you get more from the article. It's also helpful to help you identify further areas of research as well and other related research papers. I'm going to go back to results and highlight just a couple of more features here on the search results page. I'm going to go ahead and remove this journals refinement, so we have a few more documents. And you'll notice that I can select up to 10 documents to download the PDF into a zip file. So if you want to do a bulk PDF download or a multi-PDF download, you can easily do that from here. You also have the ability to change the number of results displayed per page up to 100. And then once you've done that, your exports options will allow you to either export your complete search results list up to 2,000 records into an Excel spreadsheet, or select individual documents up to 100 on a page to export. You can also do the same with the citations. You can export the citations into plain text or a format for a bibliographic management system up to 100 per page. And we also have a search alert functionality in Xplore. So if you have an ongoing area of research or a topic of interest, you can save your search and get a weekly email letting you know of any new content that's been added into Xplore. So it's a great way to stay up to date. The key is you'll notice it says access to this feature requires personal sign-in. See link in the top right corner. So that follow this author feature I showed you earlier, that citation alert on the article page, and this set search alert are all part of our personalization features. And to take advantage of those, you do need to create a personal account. So if you don't have one, you just simply click Create Account and fill in this really short form here. If you already have a personal account, or if you're an IEEE member, you can just sign in with your member username and password here. You don't need to set up a new one. But once you log in with that personal account, you'll be able to take advantage of the alerting functionality. You'll be able to set up your own personal search preferences, and you can even track your searches in a search history function. So now if I wanted to save this search, I can simply give it a name and click Save. All of my personalization features are accessible from the My Settings drop-down menu. So if I wanted to set up my own personal search preferences, I could easily do that. I can designate what publisher's content I want to search, how I want my search results sorted and displayed, if I want a search history to track my 50 most recent searches. One thing to note is in Xplore, when you're searching, the default is to do what's called a metadata search. So it's looking for your search terms in the abstract, index terms, document title, publication title, author name, and date. If you want to change that default to do a full text metadata or full text only search, you can do that here in your preferences. But you also have that option when you go into the advanced search page, which I'll show you in a minute. And then the other alert options you'll see here under the My Settings alerts. So if you set up any saved search alerts, those follow this author alerts or citation alerts, you can access them from this page. But you can also set up alerts on individual content types. So within the journals and magazines, you can select any journals or magazines that you're interested in by clicking the checkbox and then clicking Update. And then each time that journal or magazine is published and posted on Xplore, you're going to get an email with a table of contents in the body of the email. You can also set up a weekly alert for for conferences to be notified of all the conferences that were added into Xplore that week. You can set up a standards alert on individual standards. So if you have a specific standard or a group of standards that you use heavily, I would highly encourage you to set up an alert on those standards so that you'll be notified if that standard is modified or amended, if a new draft is published, if the current version is superseded by a new version, things like that. And it works the same way. You simply click the checkbox next to the title and then click Update here. And then lastly, we do have 6 ebooks collections on Xplore. You can set up an alert to be notified as new ebooks are posted each month. So it'll just give you a running list of all the books that were posted that month on Xplore. So those are some of the personalization features. It's obviously optional, but if you do use Xplore a lot, it will be really invaluable to you to set up one of these personal accounts and set up alerts so you can get content pushed out to you instead of having to constantly come in and check and see if new things are being published. You'll notice here there is a search box again, so it's that same global search box that we see on the home page. So it really follows you around throughout the site, so you can always start a new search from wherever you are. And it's also how you access all of the other search options in Xplore. So you'll notice there's a drop-down menu here, and the default is to search across all the content. But you can search by a specific content type, or you can do an author search from here to search for a specific author name, or a citation search to search for a specific publication title. Just below the global search box is a link to the advanced search page and a drop-down menu to access a few other search options as well. If we take a look at the advanced search page, you'll see that this is a guided way to do a little bit more complex searching. One of the things you can do is search within specific fields. So instead of just having the all metadata default like we have on the global search bar, you can now search within full text and metadata, full text only, or within the other fields such as author affiliation or the DOI or funding agency. You can also combine your search terms with and or not. And means you want all of the search terms, or means you want any of the search terms, and not is a way to exclude a search term. So you can say I only want documents that include term A but do not include term B. You're not limited to just the 3 search boxes here. You can click the plus symbol here to add until you have a total of 10 on the page. And when you're searching in Xplore, if you enter 2 or more terms, it automatically ands them together. So if you want to get an exact phrase, you would want to put it within quotes, as I've done here. So by telling the database, I want the exact phrase minimally invasive, it's going to only find documents in which those 2 terms appear right next to each other. And then I've used the OR operator to search for a synonym, non-invasive. And then I'm going to add an additional search term here. So the database does automatic stem variations, so it automatically finds pluralized nouns, verb tenses, and British and American spelling variations for you. So for surgery, it would automatically find surgeries, plural. But it's not going to find surgical, which is not a verb tense or a pluralized noun. So within Xplore, we have what is called a wildcard. It's an asterisk. It stands for any or no character. And by placing the asterisk after the G here, I'm telling the database to find any word that begins with S-U-R-G. Now, you can use the asterisk wildcard at the end of a word, as I've done here. But you can also use it at the beginning of a word or in the middle of a word. So, for example, if I did asterisk technology, it'd find any word that ends in technology. So it'd find the word technology, but it'd also find nanotechnology, biotechnology, etc. So you can really use that asterisk wildcard in pretty much any way. I'm going to do the same thing with the word robot here because I want to pick up robotics as well. And one last thing to note on this page is what we call order of precedence, and that's top to bottom. So the search engine is going to process your request by doing what you put in the first box first, then the operator in the second box, then the operator in the third box, and so on. So if you're familiar with the concept of nesting, how to place your search terms and operators within parentheses to designate the order in which they're processed, it's literally nesting your search from top to bottom. So you have to make sure you put your OR string in the top boxes so it goes out first and looks for any papers that include minimally invasive or non-invasive first, and then from there any that also talk about surgery or surgical and robot or robotics. Now, I should point out that the global search box does actually support this type of searching as well. So if you're just doing a metadata-only search and you really like to be in control of the nesting and typing in your own search terms and operators, you can do that on this search box as well. But the key is you do need to type those operators in all caps, and you're in control of the nesting, so you need to make sure you put parens in this particular case around the first clause, minimally invasive or non-invasive. But you can see we got 2,038 documents when we did it on the advanced search, and I'm going to get the exact same results here doing it on the global search. Now, we do also offer a command search, which is another way to do that command language searching. You might want to use it over the global search box if you wanted to search within specific fields, such as the full text, because it will populate that box for you with the field name correctly. So IEEE Xplore really does offer a variety of search options depending on what you're most comfortable with and what you're trying to accomplish. You'll notice there is also a citation search, which is a known item search. So it's when you're looking for a very specific document, you can just come in here and fill in whatever fields you happen to know. All right, so those are the different search options in Xplore. I'm going to move on now to browsing, and then we'll go into the Q&A session. So there is a prominent Browse drop-down menu on every page in Xplore. It's organized by type of content. So if we go to the books, as I mentioned earlier, we do have 6 different ebooks collections within Xplore. So if you want, you can narrow down by book type. So let's say I was interested in the IEEE Wiley ebooks. I could easily narrow down that way. I also have the ability to change the default from publication title A to Z to newest first to browse the most recently published ebooks. And then I can simply click on one to go to the ebook homepage. From here I can see the full abstract. If I have access to this article, I can download the complete ebook, or I can download the individual ebook chapters. If we go to conferences, you'll notice you have the ability to browse either by title or by topic. Within the by topic tab, we do have 16 subject areas where we've mapped all of our content to. So you can select one of those and then browse all of the conferences relevant to that topical area. Within the by title tab, you can select a letter of the alphabet or enter a unique word or phrase from the title. You can also search by acronym. So a lot of times we know a conference by its acronym. Simply type that acronym in, such as ISSCC, and you'll see a complete list of conferences available in Xplore by year. Simply click on the year you're interested in to browse the table of contents or to search within here. So there's a search within functionality. As I mentioned earlier, we do have hundreds of hours of e-learning courses. They're available on a variety of topics, so we do have some topical tiles down at the bottom. At the top are the different course programs on the emerging technologies, so these are the newest course programs. And most of the courses are between 1 and 3 hours in length. We do have introductory, advanced, and intermediate level courses as well. Journals and magazines. So from here we have, again, that by title tab and the by topic tab. That by topic is the same 16 subject areas that we saw in the conferences browse. Here I can simply type in a keyword from the title. So for example, if I search Internet of Things, it's just going to look for journals and magazines with the word Internet of Things in the title. And then I can simply click on that journal title to go to the journal homepage. Here I'll see things like the impact factor, eigenfactor, article influence score. I can browse the most popular or most downloaded articles from the previous month, so I can see what's popular from this particular journal. I can see those early access articles that are in the queue waiting to be published in a print journal. I can go right to the current issues table of contents, and depending on your subscription package, you may be able to download the entire issue. So it's a one PDF cover-to-cover view, so it's really nice to download that for offline reading. And if you're logged in with your personal account, you can even set up your table of content alerts right from here. So if you have some specific journals or magazines that you really like, go ahead and set up an alert on them, and then when they're published, you can come in and download that entire issue to read offline. You have the same kinds of features in order to download PDFs or export the citations from the table of contents page. And if you're looking for older issues, just simply go to this All Issues tab and use the drop-down menus to navigate to the specific volume and issue number you're looking for. The About Journal tab is just that it's a little bit more information about the journal, the full aim and scope, publication details. A lot of times you'll find contact information for editors-in-chief. If you're interested in publishing with this particular journal, you can actually start the submission process right from here. And we have a nice link to the Author Center, which will give you all of the tools and resources you need to publish with IEEE. And if you're ever trying to search just within one IEEE publication, the easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is to come to the journal homepage for that particular publication and then click Search Within Publication and enter your search terms up here, because this will allow you to just do a search across all years of that particular journal or magazine. And it just makes it really easy because you don't have to make sure you get the name just right in the publication title field, etc. And then if you want, you can actually remove that publication to broaden out and search across all the content in Xplore as well. And then lastly are the standards. And the standards browse is a little different because it's kind of a unique type of content. You'll start in a By Collection tab, which allows you to see the top collections of IEEE standards. So you can see we cover a wide range of technical interests here. But if I wanted to select one of those, I could then narrow down to just the information technology related standards. And then I also have the ability to narrow down to some sub-collections. So if I'm just interested in the IT software standards, for example, I could just narrow down to those. And then along the left-hand side, I have the ability to say just active or by a certain publication year, things like that. If you are trying to browse topically, I would recommend using either the By Collection tab or this By ICS Code tab. So the ICS is an international classification for standards, which was published by the International Organization for Standards, or ISO. And it's basically a hierarchical thesaurus, so it allows you to start very broadly and then drill down. So if you're not sure if there are standards or exactly what you're looking for, this is a nice way to start broadly. So for example, I could select electrical engineering, a very broad topic, right? We'll pull up all the electrical engineering related standards, but then it gives me the subcategories. So I could say insulation, for example, and then it gives me another layer of categories. So it really allows you to kind of drill down and browse through a topic. If you're looking for a very specific IEEE standard and you know that number, you can just come into Browse Standards and select By Number tab. So let's say we were looking for IEEE 1012. From here, you could then either select the range to browse, or you can type that number in here. And the reason I prefer to look for a specific IEEE standard by number in the browse functionality as opposed to the main search is because it then pulls that entire family of standard up by version or status. So it's really quickly and easily able to define, here's the active approved version, or here's the Redline version, which tracks changes from the previous version to the current version. I can also see the drafts, or I can see the superseded, meaning the historical versions of the standards. And if I click on a specific standard, it takes me to the abstract page where I can then download the full text PDF if I have access to it. Down at the bottom, there's a really nice versions tab that gives you a timeline for the standard. So if you're looking, again, to try and identify a specific version or status, this can help you do that as well. I also wanted to point out the Get Help option at the top of Xplore. There is a way to contact us. We also have a feedback button throughout the site. You'll notice that orange feedback button. And then there is a Resources and Help section as well. The Resources and Help is searchable or browsable. Here you'll see our help files on browsing and searching. There's also links out to author tools from here. For any administrators or librarians on the call, we have many features and functionality within this to help you manage your account. And then there is some videos and training. So here you'll find some FAQs, some tips, some tip sheets, and some video tutorials, which are short, self-paced, 2 to 5 minute and linked tutorials that cover many of the topics I talked about today. So if you just want to get a quick look at a specific topic like how to set up an alert, this is a nice, easy way to do that. All right, so those are some of my strategies for searching IEEE Xplore and some of the highlighted features. We are going to move back to the live demo portion. To the Q&A portion. There were some questions that were submitted prior to the session beginning as part of the registration process, so I'm going to start with those, and then Craig's going to help me and go through some of the questions that came in the chat box. If you have a question, because all lines are muted, please type it into the chat box and send it to the panelists so that Craig will see it as well. Please do not send things directly to the host, as I'm not looking at the chat box right now. And we'll go through as many as we can, but if we don't get to your question, we will follow up with you after the session, all right? So one of the questions that was pre-submitted was about the API and how to get a key. So there is a metadata API that allows you to query and retrieve metadata records for those 5 million documents in Xplore. It's available at developer.ieee.org, and that is one of the URLs that Craig provided in the chat box earlier. And when you go to that site, just simply click on Getting Started and register a user account in order to obtain an API key. Then there's plenty of documentation to help you get started doing your searches on the API. I mentioned during today's session that we had this partnership with CodeOcean, and that IEEE also has a data set repository called IEEE Dataport. Those are just two of our initiatives to help support open science and reproducibility of research. Another one is called Tech Archive, which is a new preprint server for engineering and technology that lets authors post early and fully open versions of their articles prior to peer review and prior to being published. And again, Craig provided the URLs for these 3 sites in the chat box as well. We actually had quite a few questions that were pre-submitted about publishing with IEEE. That was sort of out of the scope of today's presentation. I am going to follow up with everyone who asked for that as part of the registration process or put anything in the chat box about it with some additional links. But the #1 place I've explained to start is the IEEE Author Center. And again, Craig put this URL in the chat box, but it's IEEEauthorcenter.ieee.org. There is an IEEE publication recommender on that page, which will allow you to plug in the topic of your paper, and it will recommend specific journals and conferences to potentially submit your paper to. You'll also find the IEEE Style Guide, all the templates you need to publish with us. There's even some little video tutorials about writing your paper or citing in IEEE style, things like that. We also had questions about the apps that are available. So we do have a My Xplore app, which is a way to search IEEE Xplore content from your mobile device. You can also set up notifications or alerts. So if you want to set up notifications on a specific search topic of interest or a particular IEEE publication, you can do that as well. You can download it from the Apple App Store or Google Play. In addition to that, IEEE has launched a new app for IEEE leaders, volunteers, and members, and it will provide you recommendations based on your geographic location or technical interest. It can also help locate other IEEE members by location, affiliations, interests, and even provides a way to try and schedule meetups with them if you want. So again, you can download that from the Apple App Store or Google Play. All right, so Craig, I think we can go ahead and start with any questions that you might have.
Okay, certainly. We have a number, and so as we've mentioned before, we will be following up with many of you individually. So we will get back to you with the email address that you have provided to us. Jaelyn, one question we had was if they can share the recorded video with others.
Yes. So our marketing team's going to send out the recording to today's session, and you can feel free to share that with others.
Another question is regarding the wildcard and its usage. And someone was wondering if that can be used in the DOI field in case you do not know the entire DOI or digital object identifier.
Yeah, you should be able to, as long as you have at least 3 characters, you can use the asterisk wildcard in any field.
Somebody asked about how to become an IEEE reviewer, and I sent that out via the chat box, so hopefully everyone received that. Let's see. When Jaelyn was providing the demo of the IEEE Xplore interface, she discussed the different sort by options. Did she say the most popular is for the most read documents among users at my institution or among all users of IEEE Xplore?
Yeah, great question. So it is among all users. So it's worldwide usage, not specific to your institution.
And I'm looking, and some people are saying that the sound is cutting out. I apologize for that if you are having issues with that. There was another question here regarding the presentation slides and if those would be available and shareable.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can also send those along with the recording. And we're sort of coming up on time, so a couple of other things I wanted to point out is if you want a certificate of completion for attending today's live online training session, please email training@ieee.org. If you have further questions, please email training@ieee.org. If you have questions about access, I see somebody just sent one in, how to access IEEE Xplore Digital Library documents, we need for you to email training@IEEE.org and include your institution name. And we will help you determine if you have an institutional subscription and how to access it, or if not, how to get you access. And then you can see there's a couple of other links here. You can follow IEEE Xplore on Facebook or Twitter. Whenever you have technical support issues, you can always email onlinesupport@IEEE.org. And Craig, I don't know if we might have time for one last question if you have anything.
I think the rest of them we will need to get back to people individually on those, Jaelyn.
Okay. So we're going to go through everything that came in the chat box, all the questions that were posted prior to the session via the registration, and anything that comes into training at IEEE.org, and get back to everyone. But so I'm going to say thank you for your time today, and again, we will get out the recording to you soon. All right. Thank you, everyone.